Hello, this is Pete Kelly with Pete DK Codes. This is a little bit different than the other videos I've put out. Um, this one's going to be talking about index match and how you can use that to find the nth time a particular set of criteria shows up in a data set. I came across this whenever I had a large data set that I was doing some stored procedures. I put together some mock data and inserted it into a database and then did some stored procedures. And I needed a way of knowing for sure that the stored procedures were matching the appropriate records to each other that they needed to and applying the appropriate logic. And in order to do this, I had almost 500,000 records. And in order to do this, I went and found a way to do this index match on the nth item. And I'll talk to you about that. Before I do, case that you need a refresher or you don't know about index match, I'll do a quick refresher on that. Those of you that do understand an index match, when I leave this page, go ahead and then start. You can fast forward to the point where you see me leave this page, and then that's where I'll talk about the finding the nth nth time that a particular scenario shows up. Okay, so let's talk about index match. I'm going to compare it to VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is one that more people know about, although it is not nearly as flexible. One of the constraints with VLOOKUP is that whatever table or whatever you define as a grouping of things, the values that you're looking up have to always be on the left, and they have to be the very first one in that grouping. And so what I've got here is a couple of examples. Oh, by the way, whenever I make changes to this, you won't see anything update until I hit calculate now. This file is so large that it takes several seconds to go ahead and calculate. So I've got the automatic calculate turned off, and after I make changes, I'll hit calculate now, and you can see those. So here we go. So let's say that I want the third one. So third row, what's going to happen is VLOOKUP will go up here. It will find the row that corresponds to 3. It will come over to name and hit Stephen. And that happens here. Looking at B15, which is 3. Then looks at this table and it looks in the row. It finds a 3, goes over to the name, which I said, hey, go over to the third one, pick it up, and false being that you've got to find an exact match. Index match, I said, pull the result from the name column, match it against what's in B15, and then where you're going to match it against is the column titled row. And 0 means that you've got to find an exact match. So that's how that works. What I've also done here is I said, hey, go ahead, whatever I put in for the row number, give a B day, a birth date, and then do the same VLOOKUP and index. And then to show the power of being able to define any column, I went ahead and did this on index match. I can't do that with VLOOKUP. That's why that's grayed out. So B plus 7 is this. It also corresponds to row 3. And will, whenever I change it, I have not went ahead and calculated yet. Will when I change it, and it will come back. Everything will come back as Steve. Calculate. It takes some time for it to calculate through. And there it goes. Everyone now updated to Steve like they should, but the index VLOOKUP can't do that. Look to the left. Okay, so now let's talk about what really finding that nth event of something. What I have here is a large data set. Actually, go over here. What I've got here is a large data set, and go off to the left just a little bit. This is how the data set actually came out of the tables. I have an ID for a receive ID, and then a bunch of data, some dates and some times. And we come over here, I've got item numbers and I have locations. And what I was interested in was, what's the 7th time that a particular item from a location was received? What's the 7th time that a particular item at a location was shipped? What I had to do to make this happen was I had to produce a helper method column. And what this helper method column does is it goes out, it finds the item number, it appends it to the location name, and then it counts and says, how many times has this combination of things shown up this far into the table? And let me go down here to where, so on row 16, it's looking at Z. I'll come over here to Z. Looking at Z and saying everything from 2 to 16, how many times does GF24500, how many times is that in there? And it also corresponds to AD, which is location ID of 5. And the answer is that happens twice in that 2 to 16, so in the first 15 rows. So that's half of it. Now that I have a helper method, something to look at and compare to, because I can only compare to one cell. I can't compare to multiple cells, but I can make one cell represent multiple cells, what I've done with that helper method column. Now I'm going to do index, and the index is, again, what's going to be returned. There we go. Index, what's going to be returned? In this case, I want the receiving ID to be returned. What I'm going to match it to is going to look at this very first part is what I'm going to build as my match, and that's going to be a combination of item, location name, and the nth time, in this case 1. Whoops. And if I was down here, it would be 7. And I'm going to go out to the table, receive, and I'm going to look in that helper method column, and I'm going to find out when that is, when they match. When they match, you go to the column ID, and you pick back the corresponding value there. So hopefully that makes sense. What this allowed me to do that filtering wouldn't do, because I could filter on item and location name. That would have been easy. But then having this value, the 7th time that this combination happened, right next to the 7th time that it's happened for ship, would not have been possible to filter because they're on different pages. And having that information side by side helped me with my troubleshooting. I hope this helps you. And I'm going to go ahead and just illustrate it working. I'm going to go ahead and pick a different combination of item and location. So in this case, I'm going to pick an item of 1F, there we go, and Astoria. And then I got to do calculate now, again, to calculate, and there it goes. So now this is, in this case, the 70th time that I've received that item at Astoria, and the 70th time that I shipped that item from Astoria. I hope this helps. It helped me. I could not have done the troubleshooting with my store procedure that I did without being able to look at the data like this, and hope that this helps you. Thank you. Have a great day. Goodbye.